All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about something that every parent, every coach, every teacher sees and frankly worries about. Why do some of the most gifted kids just get stuck? Well, the answer isn't what you think. It's not about talent, it's not about motivation, it's about focus. And we're going to argue that it's become the most important skill for success, period.
I mean, does this just hit you right where you live? We all know that kid, right? The one on the field or in the classroom who has all the natural gifts in the world, but they just can't seem to listen or stay on task for more than a few minutes. This quote, it absolutely nails a huge and growing problem. And this is the big idea we are diving into. In a world where basic skills are pretty easy to come by, the thing that really separates the good from the great isn't raw talent anymore. It's the ability to actually pay attention. So often when a kid is struggling, we jump to all the wrong conclusions. We tell ourselves, oh, they just don't want it enough, or we blame their attitude. But what if we're looking at the wrong problem entirely?
This question is a really important gut check for all of us. It forces us to stop judging a kid's character and start looking at their actual skills. It reframes the whole issue, moving it away from being some kind of moral failure and toward what it really is, a skills gap.
Okay, so let's really dig into this reframe. Because to solve a problem, you first have to understand what you're actually dealing with. We have to know what attention is, and maybe more importantly, what it isn't. And I promise you, this is where everything starts to change.
This is such a fundamental shift in thinking. We've got to stop thinking about attention like it's a fixed personality trait, like eye color. It's not. It's a skill that can be trained. It has nothing to do with how smart a kid is or whether they have a good attitude. It's about real, learnable actions. Can you sustain your focus? Can you resist a distraction? And this one's huge. Can you reset after you make a mistake?
Let me put it this way. You would never expect a kid to have perfect footwork in soccer without doing drills, right? Or to be strong without ever lifting weights. Well, attention works the exact same way. It's a mental muscle, and just like any other muscle, it gets stronger with reps.
So that leads to the big question, doesn't it? If it's a trainable skill, why does it feel like more kids are struggling with it now than ever before? Well, the answer isn't something wrong inside the kids. It's everything happening around them. I mean, let's just be real for a second. The world we live in is basically an engine designed for distraction. We've created an environment where there is no room for boredom, no quiet moments, and absolutely no need to wait for anything. This world actively works against developing focus because it robs our kids of the very reps they need to build that mental muscle. So, this is maybe the most crucial point of all. We have to stop thinking there's a problem with our kids. The kids aren't broken. They are having a perfectly normal reaction to a completely abnormal environment, one that is constantly and very intentionally hijacking their focus. Okay, so what does this lack of training actually look like in real life? The signs are things every single one of us will recognize instantly. These aren't just abstract ideas. They have real, day-to-day consequences. Tell me if any of this sounds familiar. The homework that should take 20 minutes takes 2 hours because the phone is buzzing. The coaching tip you have to give 10 times in a row. The emotional meltdown the second things get a little hard. These are not character flaws. You are literally watching an untrained skill play out in real time. And this is what's really at stake in the long run. Untrained attention becomes the ceiling on a child's potential. Eventually, you hit a point where talent just isn't enough, and growth stops. Not because the kid isn't capable, but because they can't focus long enough to do the hard work that growth requires. Okay, but here is the good news, and it's really good news. Because attention is a skill, we can absolutely train it. And you don't need any secret gimmicks or expensive apps. All you need are simple, consistent exercises that build that mental muscle. Think of these like drills for the brain. It can be something as simple as starting with 10-minute focus blocks with 0 distractions allowed, or creating an environment where there's only one thing to do. It's about practicing waiting, making sure they finish small tasks, and teaching them a simple way to reset after a mistake. These small reps, done over and over again, that's how the skill gets built. And the one thing all those strategies have in common is this principle right here. Building focus means you have to lean into a little bit of discomfort, a little boredom, a little frustration, a little quiet. It's in those moments when the brain is screaming for a distraction that the real growth actually happens. Now here comes the reality check, because none of this works if the adults in a kid's life aren't leading the way. This isn't something kids can or even should have to do on their own. It starts with us. This is the shift we have to make. It means we stop handing them a phone the second they say, I'm bored. We stop repeating ourselves 5 times. Instead, we start setting clear, firm expectations for being present and for following through. A consistent environment set by us is where focus can finally start to grow. So let's bring this all home with a simple but really powerful truth. Let's say it again. If attention is a skill, then it's trainable. It's not set in stone. It can be improved and developed in every single child. And this, well, this is the part that lands squarely on our shoulders. Because if we know it can be trained, then blaming a kid's personality or just shrugging our shoulders at the environment, that becomes an excuse. We have the power to change this. Look, at the end of the day, focus isn't just a nice-to-have skill anymore. It is the essential edge for learning, for competing, and for living a good life. So the only question left to ask is, what's going to be your first step in helping them build it?